All right, it's Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern, and that means it's time to go live. Myself, Jimmy Ott, and Mr. Paul Stone. I'll come to you via Las Vegas. Paul's in Texas as we get ready for week 0. And, college football, they may make week 0 a permanent thing, but we do have a handful of games, and we'll get to them, and even one that we don't have a pick on, we'll give you an opinion and a breakdown. Paul, let's start off with the best matchup of the weekend, and no doubt 2 ranked opponents here: Iowa State and Kansas State in Dublin, Ireland. I went to Croke Park when I visited Dublin. So anyway, both teams have they have a lot of optimism going into it. Both have continuity with the staff. Both of these coaching staffs are quality staffs. They have continuity with their quarterbacks as well. Both will be getting into their 3rd full season as starters. But as I look at this one more and more, I just think it's a pick-em game. It's a toss-up game. You're going to give me a field goal, I'll gladly take it. But I also think this is going to be a really big year for Rocco Becht. His 3rd year, full-time starter. He's thrown for 66-91 and 48 touchdowns. And a lot of scouts are really high on him at the next level as well. He did lose two pro wide receivers. So 2 receivers have gone. They were drafted last year, but he has a few coming in through the transfer portal. So in last year too, even despite Iowa State being the number 1 seed in the Big 12, where they were upset by Arizona State, they had at least 13 players miss at least 13 starters miss at least 1 game last year. So all of that coming into play, I think it's going to be a close game. Give me the 3 points, but I think Iowa State is a live dog here. I would put a little money line on them as well. But at Bet Rivers right now, you're catching 3 points, I'll gladly take 3. And I would advise you to take it now just in case it goes below that magic number of 3. Iowa State +3, Paul.
Yeah, I'm really torn on this one, Jimmy. I was leaning Iowa State with you. As you know, probably maybe a couple of weeks ago, it ticked up to 4 and then came down to 3.5, and now it's pretty much settled at 3. But that best number's gone, and indeed, not only in life but in sports betting, sometimes he who hesitates is lost. So I lost my shot at getting 4 points. But, these are 2 of the better teams in the Big 12, as you alluded to. I think there are 7 teams that could win the league, and these are certainly 2 of those. And the winner of this game, they've got a leg up really on not a huge leg up, but they have a leg up on the rest of the conference, just getting a meaningful win in conference play before the end of August. So it's going to be a great game. Both these teams have returning quarterbacks. They've got some good players back, but both of them have some questions. And that's kind of what, concerns me a little bit. Kansas State, they lose running back DJ Giddens, 2,500 yards total over the last 2 seasons. Big time running back. They're going to be debuting 2 new offensive tackles, 2 new cornerbacks. So Kansas State certainly has some questions. In Iowa State, Rocco Becht, man, that guy's been a kind of a revelation since he took over at quarterback. Like you said, a 3rd-year starter now. But last year, he had 2 big-time receivers. He had 2 guys that almost had 1,200 yards receiving each. Those 2 guys, of course, being Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. Both of those guys drafted in the first 3 rounds of this past April's NFL draft. So that's a lot of production out the door. Matt Campbell, though, as you mentioned, as far as Iowa State is an underdog, Campbell 14-8-1 against the spread as an underdog, certainly in that role here. Probably not going to be involved, but if I was taking a side, I would be with you with Iowa State. It's taking the 3 or nothing, in my opinion.
Well, I can't abstain. You know that. You can give me the best matchup on Saturday. I have to have action on it. So this is what we're doing. And so I'm pulling the trigger on Iowa State, no doubt about that. Yeah, 2 new transfers coming in from East Carolina and East Carolina and Central Florida. For Iowa State, and multitude of tight ends as well. That's what I like about Becht as well. He spreads it around. He'll spread it around, and I just think it's going to be a good season. But man, a key game in this really balanced Big 12, and we spoke about that in our conference previews earlier. All right, Paul, let's get to one of these directional school games in Western Kentucky. The Hilltoppers at home hosting Sam Houston State. Line is 10.5 and 61. You're kind of focusing in on the total here in this matchup.
Yeah, going to be played there in Western Kentucky, Bowling Green, Kentucky, home of the National Corvette Museum, if you're keeping score at home. But Western Kentucky, they have deservedly earned a reputation over the last few years under their seventh-year head coach, Tyson Helton, of kind of being a faster-paced scoring machine, if you will. They just a few years ago, back in 2021, averaged 44.2 points a game, but they've regressed a little bit. They've slowed some on offense the last 3 years, actually dropped all the way to just 24.9 points per game this past season in 2024. Actually ended the season on an 8-4 under run, only scored more than 31 points in only 3 of their 14 games. Western Kentucky, they do have a new quarterback, got a guy named Maverick McIver. He comes over from FCS Abilene Christian University with his offensive coordinator. Of course, a new offensive coordinator coming over from ACU in Rick Bowie. And no question about it, McIver, man, he can sling the ball around. A lot of people remember that game when Abilene Christian went to Texas Tech last year, lost to the Red Raiders in overtime. But McIver in that game threw for over 500 yards. So he's a gunslinger. People who go way back, they might remember his father, Rick McIver, who started a season or two at the University of Texas, late 70s, early 80s. But Maverick McIver, I think they're going to score some points, but I think it's going to take some time. As we talk about often, the defense is ahead of the offense this time of the year. And I think even more so when you're talking about a passing offense where you have a lot of new pieces, which is the case with Western Kentucky. They have a lot of transfers, a lot of new parts, not only a new quarterback, but obviously the new offensive coordinator, and came up with a trend here that I was able to uncover. I think it's very some trends better than others. Some are just happenstance, but I think this one's got a little bit of validity to it. Dating back to 2021, games played in either week 0 or week 1. So you're talking about pretty much the first games for all the teams. When a total is lined in the 60s, the under is 27-12. So when you have a total actually of 60 or above, even in the 70s, 27-12 to the under. So I'm leaning into that a little bit here as well. I think this game's going to go under 61, Sam Houston, Western Kentucky.
Yeah, right at 70% for that. And I doing a radio show for 35 years, and people, it's like, don't overreact to ugly offensive football in game 1 of a season. You turnover in personnel, the offenses are behind. And I'll even give you one thing, another angle, and that is for these first games, first half unders, because sometimes a team will get, they'll get the kinks out and be much sharper in the second half. So taking plus points and also first half unders are considerations, just sort of a general approach for these first games of the season. So we do it all. Oh, I don't know about their offense, but their defense looks really well. The defenses are ahead of the game in the first week. And that kind of ties into my next pick. And normally you give me 13 points. That's hard to pass up. But think about the continuity and lack thereof with the Kansas-Fresno State matchup. Kansas is 13 over Fresno State. We talked about them earlier in a conference preview for the Big 12. And, Lance Leipold entering his 5th year, they're so excited. They got a $300 million donation strictly to football for their NIL budget, their player budget. They got a new stadium that's going to be a little extra juice. It was done right. And so instead of playing at a soccer field or Arrowhead Stadium, they have that. They're 5-7 last year. I get that. That's not good. But 1-5 in the in one-score games, that should be him. And the biggest thing is a healthy, multi-experienced quarterback, a true dual threat in Jalen Daniels. Because I think he's going to be so itching to play. I think he'll be a little extra focused and maybe just kind of reduce that first game ugly offense when you have a guy that has had so many reps as him. And then you throw in where you mid-majors like a Fresno State, when they make a coaching change, the roster takes a hit. And Matt Entz, in his first year, takes over a 6-7 team from last year. I respect Fresno's program. Back in the days of Pat Hill and some others, the Carr brothers. They were the elite team in that conference before Boise they passed the baton to them. But I'm willing to lay 13, and a rare spot when I'm going to lay double digits in this one, because so much head and shoulders continuity for Kansas. at their new building. Fans will be juiced up, a little extra juice in the stands. I'm going to lay the 13 with the Jayhawks against Fresno here.
Yeah, I mean, Jalen Daniels, he's the wild card here. He's a guy who was not fully healthy last year, threw 12 interceptions in 2024. But like you said, he's a 6-year guy with a lot of experience. And when he's healthy, he is a true dual threat guy. He really needs to revert to that 2022 form. That was his best season to date. Threw for over 2,000 yards back in 2022. 18 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, rushed for another 425 yards. Rushed for 7 touchdowns. So he's a true dual threat guy when healthy. And for his sake and for the Jayhawks, you want a guy to be at his best. So hopefully he's not going to be plagued by that injury bug and will be healthy for the full complement of games for the Jayhawks. They lose one of their main issues entering 2025 is replacing Devin Neal, the running back. And he's a guy who had 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons. And I'm not sure how many guys rushed for over 1,000 yards in 2022, 2023, and 2024, but it's not going to be much more than one. And Devin Neal is the guy. So might be others, but I can't think any off the top of my head. So they're going to have to replace Devin Neal. They'll probably do that by committee. Got to replace some guys on defense. But I mean, this is, like you said, Lance Leipold, a big time coach, a guy who I think knows the game, gets the most out of his personnel. As you mentioned, they've got a facility commitment. They've got a better facility. They're able to compete in the Big 12. I've got 7 teams that I think can win that league. Kansas is not one of them. Doesn't mean that they can't play a role in the race, or maybe even sneak in through the back door like Arizona State did last year. Because certainly nobody picked the Sun Devils. Fresno, the thing that I like about this play from your perspective here, taking Kansas minus the 13, is the losses that you speak of. I mean, Fresno loses a lot of people. They bring in a quarterback, E.J. Warner, son of former NFL great Kurt Warner. He's played for some bad teams. He's played at Temple and Rice, really lower level teams. But man, he has thrown a lot of interceptions, 37 career interceptions in 3 full seasons. He's never thrown fewer than 12 interceptions in a season. So you might expect Kansas to have the turnover, win that turnover battle. E.J. Warner, a very high interception rate career-wise of 2.8. And their defense has really been good the last 4 years, but they've only got 1 starter back in the front 7. And like we've mentioned, the new coaching staff. Ince does come with a pretty good resume. He won 2 national championships at the FCS level at North Dakota State. But this is the big stage, his first game. I'm not involved, but at the same time, I think a healthy Daniels and Kansas might win this game by more than 2 touchdowns.
And keep in mind the job that Leipold has done in Lawrence. Let's go before he took over, say 2020, 50 years, 1970 to 2020. Of the current Power 4 teams, nobody was worse than them. Nobody. I mean, Northwestern went to a Rose Bowl. They won a Big Ten, and Vanderbilt got to a few bowl games as well. But I mean, nobody. This is the toughest job, the toughest place to win anywhere. And man, that caught my attention when you give them $300 million and not a penny goes to the basketball program at Kansas. It's what you have to do. You got to strike while the iron's hot with these non-traditional powers. But what a job he's done, man. And good for Kansas. Now they committed to the facility and the new stadium, which is well done. And let's flip those 1-score games. Let's go 5-1 this year instead of 1-5. That would be really, really nice. Next one, Paul. And this was kind of one that usually it's one of those sayings. I don't have the exact statistics or the scorecard, but when one team starts off as the favorite and they're bet to an underdog, sometimes you like to be on that team that was originally the favorite, but not you and not a lot of other of our colleagues who I respect. And I think it's more of an indictment on Stanford. Your words, Power 4 teams, we talk about Kansas the last 50 years, they probably are the worst team. I think you have them as the lowest power rating of any Power 4 team. Always tricky to travel to the island to take on Hawaii. Hawaii's 2.5 at home against Stanford.
Yeah, I'm certainly a person who's numerically sensitive, and that is quite the line move when you're talking about a 5-point line move, but it is across 0. So that certainly makes it less significant. And also just based on the current age of college football with all the roster turnover as a result of the transfer portal and NIL, it's more about the roster breakdown and evaluate. It's not as much being numerically sensitive, especially early in the year. To me, is not as big of an issue as it used to be. It's about getting the personnel right and trying to fundamentally assess, one group against another. But usually, it is a bad idea historically to be on the wrong side of a 5-point line move. I'll agree with that. But this Hawai'i team, I guess first of all, I'll talk about Stanford. I mean, man, it is difficult to imagine that one season historically to be on the wrong side of a 5 team. It is one Syracuse, but they beat Louisville as well in the same season. The latter, they beat the Cardinals as a 21-point underdog. But that team is gone, and they weren't very good last year. Stanford, they're even going to have a tougher go of it this year, I believe. Lose some of their best players through the portal. One of those guys being edge rusher David Bailey. He was one of the best defensive ends in the ACC last year. He's off to the riches of West Texas and Texas Tech University. And then their wide receiver as a true freshman last year, Emmett Mosley the fifth. He really closed strong for Stanford. Last 3 games, he had more than 300 yards receiving total. He's off to the riches as well. Austin, Texas, the University of Texas. I think he'll make an impact for the Longhorns this year. And to add kind of insult to injury, they lost their head coach. He was fired in late March. Troy Taylor let go for allegedly mistreating female staff members. So a lot of turnover there. Their general manager, Andrew Luck, former Stanford great quarterback, brings in his buddy Frank Reich. Reich will serve as interim coach this year. And who knows, depending on how things go, he might be back in 2026. But for me, this is really, it's a bet against Stanford, but it's also a bet on Hawaii. This is a wide open Mountain West. I think Hawaii could make a bowl game this year. They return a nice nucleus of talent in Timmy Chang's 4th season. And it all starts with their Southpaw sophomore quarterback, Micah Alahado. He's a guy from Bishop Gorman High School, national powerhouse. Not a big guy, a little guy. Slings the ball over the yard. He had 1 start last year, didn't play a whole lot in 2024, but he started the regular season finale for Hawaii against New Mexico. Obviously, the Lobos not very good on defense, but Alejado, he led Hawaii to a 38-30 victory. And perhaps more impressively, he threw for 469 yards in that game, 5 touchdowns, rushed for another 54 yards, so over 500 yards offense in that game for Alejado. He was named the Mountain West Offensive Player of the Week, as you might imagine, and he's back, and they're really high on him. He's got 2 of his receivers last year that caught more than 60 balls apiece. They got a lot of guys back on the offensive line, and then defensively, they've got their top 5 tacklers back, 8 of their top 11 tacklers, so they set up pretty good defensively. They were really better last year on that side of the ball than they have historically been. Talking about history, Hawaii, typically not a team you want to back as a home favorite. That's pretty much been the message the last 10 years, maybe decade and a half. But under their new coach, Timmy Chang, that has kind of shifted since Chang took over the 3 seasons he's been their head coach. They are 4-1-1, a small sample size, only 6 games, but 4-1-1 against the spread as a home favorite. And they are also, since late 2023, against FBS teams on the islands, 6-0-1 against the spread against FBS opponents. So I like this Hawaii team. I think they're going to win by a field goal or more. I'm taking Hawaii minus 2.5 over the Stanford Cardinal there on the islands, available today at Bet Rivers.
I don't know what the ceiling is for Hawaii because of their obvious limitations. So, based on the geography and not a deep, recruiting pool to recruit from. But we got to keep in mind just how bad a shape this program was when Chang came in. Last minute, just thrown in there, and I mean, it was really, really rough. He's hanging in there, and he's improving, and now you got some continuity with the staff and with some players as well. So I think catching Stanford at a really good time because it's just I was down in New Orleans at Superdome when they played in their only BCS bowl game, the Sugar Bowl, and they brought I think half of Hawaii. Man, you could have robbed a bunch of places. They had like 40,000 people that stayed for like 7 to 10 days in New Orleans, and that's their high point. But Chang had to have somebody that's familiar with the program to kind of get the most out of it. So he's done a heck of a job in year 4 already. So I'm with you on that one as well. I'll be on the Fighting Rainbow Warriors in Hawaii in 2.5. No pick on the last game of week 0 this year, but I wonder about those non-traditional powers who have really good seasons, like Syracuse, 10 wins, Indiana and Illinois, 10 wins. Indiana made it to the to the playoff. SMU makes it to the playoff. How are those teams going to back it up? Well, this is not a Power 4 entry, but UNLV, you want to talk about being down for so long. Barry Odom did an awesome job with that team last year, and with all the distractions with his quarterbacks, Luka, leaving, and that little bit deal. That the facilities, some of the people, some of the teams that in the playoff for the Super Bowl, they couldn't believe how bad a shape these facilities were when they went in there. So y'all put it in there. Now, in steps Dan Mullen. Think Mississippi State doesn't miss Dan Mullen right now? Guy can win, okay? Just didn't he took the Florida job and was average there. It just was not a great fit. So he comes in. Dan Mullen's a good football coach. They're in good shape. There's a lot of Power 4 teams that don't have a Dan Mullen, a caliber coach that they do. But 27 points in this week where the football, the offense can be ugly, it seems like a lot of points. Idaho State, make no mistake either, at a lower level, but they can score as well. So I'm almost, if you want to call it a lean, it's not an official pick, but maybe the first half of points in this one with UNLV and maybe a little bit for the entire game. It's just a lot of points for week 1.
Yeah, Idaho State, they were 5-7 last year at the FCS level, lost at Oregon State 38-15. I'm not going to be involved in this game. It's just, too many variables there. But certainly the Las Vegas community, UNLV community, energized by the hiring of Dan Mullen, a guy who's coached at 2 SEC schools. This year is not going to really probably be a fair barometer of what he may or may not do there in Vegas, because it's going to be got a lot of new players, like you mentioned, a lot of turnover from the roster last year to this year. I will say I think they're going to score. UNLV's going to score a lot of points. This Idaho State team last year gave up 77 to Eastern Washington, over 700 total yards. They did average over 30 points a game, though, so we could see some offensive fireworks. We will see, apparently, read yesterday, both of the quarterbacks contending for UNLV's starting job, a couple of guys who were at Power 4 schools last year, those being Anthony Calandria from University of Virginia and Alex Orji from Michigan. Both those guys expected to play. So I think UNLV, probably give them the full offense, give them equal opportunity to kind of see who steps up and can run the offense. Won't be involved, but hey, it's football. It gives us the 5th game, and we'll see how it turns out.
I'll have something on it. Don't worry about that. But see, the first half lines aren't out right now, but it's going to be right at 2 touchdowns. So, give or take a half a point in that one. So, again, week 0 to kind of whet the appetite. Next Tuesday and Thursday, we got the full 5-day opening weekend where the NFL allows the college football to take center stage, and we'll have a lot of opinions. Got some really good matchups. Alabama at Florida State, LSU at Clemson, Texas at Ohio State. We got some good ones, man. There's no doubt about that. So we're looking forward to that. And next Thursday, we've been eyeing down that Baylor-Auburn game for quite some time. So for Paul Stone, I'm Jimmy Ott. Every Tuesday and Thursday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Join us live at College Sports Rush and our YouTube channel. We'll see you on Tuesday.